Okay. So yesterday we had stopped at factors influencing compensation policy. Am I audible, students? Yes, students, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right. So here yesterday I think we had stopped at factors influencing compensation, that are internal factors and the external factors. Okay. We had looked into various external factors, right? And then moving on to the next, my dear students, key components of international compensation. What are the various components of international compensation which are being included in the compensation system? Okay. So here when we speak about international compensation system, so first component which is included here is the base salary. Okay, so base salary is nothing but the term, basically the base salary is slightly different meanings in the international context than that of the domestic one. So in latter case it denotes the amount of cash compensation that serves as a benchmark for other compensation elements. Okay, I think some more students are supposed to join. So this particular base salary, my dear students, I think again someone is supposed to join. Okay, so here base salary, basically this term is slightly different in when it comes to international compensation. Okay, so in domestic compensation, basic salary includes basic and DA, but here in the international context, it is very different. So it denotes the amount of cash compensation that serves as a benchmark for other compensation elements as bonus, social benefits. So for expatriates, it denotes the main component of package of allowances. So basically, when it comes to domestic base salary, it serves as a basis for bonuses and social benefits like PF, ESI. But when it comes to international compensation, base salary serves as a basis for allowances. Okay, whatever allowances are there, so they are calculated directly based on the base salary. Okay, as well as the pension contributions and service benefits, everything is calculated based on the base salary. So base salary actually forms the foundation block of the international compensation, right? Then apart from that, you have the amount of base salary. Basically, in short, if I put here, is the amount of money that an expatriate normally receives in his or her home country. Okay, so whatever he is receiving in his or her home country, that serves as a base salary here. Okay, so here it is used to establish expatriate pay. Okay, and it is paid in home currency. Okay, whatever country is there, based on the home country currency, the base salary is paid. Okay, and for the parent country nationals, if it is for the host country nationals, the base salary is paid in local currency, or maybe the combination of the home currency and the local currency. Okay, so it serves as a benchmark against which bonuses and benefits are calculated. Okay, so that is what we could speak about the um, base salary here. Okay, then moving on to the allowances. Okay, so second component which is included in international compensation is the allowances, which is directly calculated on the base salary. Okay, so one of the most common kind of allowance internationally is cost of living allowance, which is called as COLA. Okay, so it typically involves a payment to compensate for the differences in the cost of living between the two countries. Okay, so whatever difference is there in the cost of living between the two countries, that is taken into consideration, and basically the compensation is paid. Okay, so that is being called as cost of living allowances, that is COLA. Fine. So typical example is to compensate the inflation differentials. Okay, so certain countries there will be inflation wherein the prices of the commodities keep on rising. Okay, so that time this particular COLA is taken into consideration. Cost of living allowance is being paid additionally to the salary to the employees, so that they can easily adapt themselves and easily to the increasing prices of the commodities whatever are there. Okay, so that is what we say COLA. Okay, So basically, it involves a payment to compensation. So it is additional payment to the compensation, whatever is being paid, okay, for the employee to look into or to bear the cost of living expenses, whatever is there, okay, in that particular country where the employee is being sent. Okay. So COLA also includes payment for housing and other utilities, and also personal income tax and other major allowances like home leave allowances, education allowances, relocation allowances, spouse assistance allowances. So compensates for the loss of income due to spouse losing their job. If the spouse is losing her job, okay, or his job because of the employee is being sent there and the family of the employee has to go there if it is for a long period of time, that time the spouse has to leave her job or his job and then go and settle with that particular person who is being with the expatriate who is being sent there. So that time whatever loss of job is there, that is being paid, okay, that is called as spouse assistance. So either they allow, they put forth they just give a job to that spouse, okay, or they give certain allowances for assisting the spouse, okay, to bear the loss whatever is there, right? So that's it is called as spouse assistance allowances. Okay. So here in detail, if I could put here some common international allowances which are being paid. Okay. I think some more students want to join. Fine. Okay, so allowances here, some common international allowances, my dear students. One is foreign service premium. Okay, so here what happens is most common, it is most common for employees on long term assignment. So if the employee is going for a long term assignment, that time the foreign service that time the foreign service premiums are being given. Okay. It may be over a year, so more than a year if the employee is going as an expatriate to other country, so that time foreign service premiums are being given. So most often they are being paid to parent country nationals, okay, than to third country nationals. So basically parent country nationals receive the foreign service premiums. Okay. Apart from that, third country nationals may not be receiving this particular foreign service premiums. Okay. So that's what is being put forth here. Foreign service premiums we'll see in detail in the next slide. Okay. So hardships premium, that is also one of the allowance which is being given. So it is in consideration of isolation. Okay. So if you are sending an employee to a particular country wherein too much of crime or maybe natural hazards, earthquakes and all those things are happening, or maybe there are a lot of political violence. Okay. So based on the government data, whatever is being there, okay, you have to pay the hardship allowance to the employee. If the employee is ready to go to such a place, that time you have to pay hardship allowances to that particular employee. Okay. Which rates can be provided by consulting organizations such as International SOS and Global Medical and Security Assistance Company. So in consultation with the International SOS, that is operating at the international level, or a global medical as well as a security assistance company, you have to decide on how much of a percentage of hardship allowance you'll be paying. Then you have relocation allowance which is being paid. So compensation for cost such as transportation. Okay. So relocation cost includes transportation cost, storage cost, temporary accommodation, purchases of appliances and vehicle, and which is associated to moving with the host country. So any expenses which is associated to moving with the host country, that particular relocation allowance is being paid to the employee, which is a one-time assistance which is being paid. Apart from that, education allowance for assignees children. Okay, so this involves the compensation for language classes. Okay, if there is a change in the language, then books and school fees that is being paid by the company. Then home country boarding school fees. Okay, may also be involved for assignees who opt for not to take their children to isolate and or politically violent locations. Certain times if you're sending an employee to a place where too much of hazards or maybe too much of violence is there, okay, or maybe you have to work in isolation or something like that, in that particular case you cannot take your children. So that time the company has to pay home country boarding school fees. Okay. So you are sending your children to boarding schools, okay, in the home country itself. That time the company has to bear the expenses of that particular boarding school fees. Okay. So these are the education allowances which are being given to the expatriate. Fine. apart from that, home leave allowance, okay, so provisions for assignees and family, okay, so basically certain times the assignee or the expatriate or the family may return to home country periodically during the length of the assignment, or maybe once in a year, okay, or maybe twice in a year. The expatriate and his family want to return to their home country for just a vacation or something like that. That time home leave allowances, that means the fare tickets, okay, sorry, the air tickets and all those things will be considered by the company itself, okay. So these are the various allowances which are being given by the company to the expatriate, okay, and this is one of the component which is involved in international compensation. Apart from that, if I put in detail the foreign service inducement premium which is being paid, so this is the component of total compensation package which is given to employees to encourage them to take up foreign assignments. So basically, foreign service inducement payment is being given for the employees to encourage to take up the foreign assignments. So parent country nationals often receive the salary premium as an inducement which to accept the foreign assignments, or as a compensation for any hardship caused by the transfer. So expatriates of foreign service premium, okay, it is nothing but an add-on to the regular salary. Fine, it is an add-on or allowance to the regular salary, which is designed to induce. Okay, they motivate the employee or the candidate of the home country and their family to leave their familiar working and living conditions and continue to being employed in another country. Okay, so this is a kind of motivation for the employee as well as family of the employee to go and take up that particular job in the foreign country. So this type of premium may be needed when shifting an employee or a family of employee for a short term to a long term assignment. Okay, so when can you send the family? Only when you are putting them on a long term assignment. So short term assignments, foreign service premiums may not be given. Maybe they may give hardship allowances, but foreign service premiums are given only when you are sending an employee for a long term assignment that is more than a year. Okay, then hardship premiums, basically it is the allowance which is being paid to the employee who are assigned to a country with difficult conditions. Okay, so when you are sending a particular employee to a country wherein the conditions are not good, okay, the conditions are very much worse. It may be a volcanic region, or it may be a region wherein too many earthquakes happen, or it may be a region wherein tsunamis or maybe natural calamities occur every now and then. It may be a region wherein terror attacks like Israel and all the terror attacks will be happening every now and then. Okay, or it may be a region wherein you do not find food properly. Okay, the conditions, living conditions are not that good. Okay, if that particular country you are sending an employee there, that time you have to pay hardship premiums or hardship allowance to the employee, okay, which may make up to 30% or sometimes more than that of the salary. Okay, so this is something which is additional to the salary which you are paying. So hardship allowances may be also referred as, so certain companies do refer hardship allowance as danger pay or location premium or hazard pay or something like that, right? So statistics say that 64% of the companies provide hardship allowances. Okay, so majority of the companies do, 64% of the companies do provide hardship allowances, but some companies it is on the risk of the employee who is being sent there. Fine. So that's what we say about hardship premium. I hope it is being understood, students. Any doubts till here? Any doubts still here, students? Is it being understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then moving on to the next component of international compensation, that is benefits. Okay. So till now we have seen international compensation components. One is the base salary and the allowances, and then we'll move on to benefits. So benefits basically is often very complicated to deal with. Okay. What benefits you are going to give to the employee? Okay. For instance, pension plans normally differ from country to country due to differences in national practices. There may be a lot of national practices. Basically, in US, they give pension plans only to the US citizens and not to other citizens. Okay, so probably there may be a lot of differences, right? Into the pension plans or maybe insurances also. If you could see in US, all the employees are being insured, but in China only they give insurance to the Chinese people. Okay, So like this, there may be lot of differences from country to country. Okay, their practices or national practices may differ. So thus these benefits, okay, like medical coverage or social security, are different to imitate across countries. So as a matter of fact, most of the US officials are covered by their home country benefits. Okay, so other kind of benefits that are offered are vacations and special leaves, rest and rehabilitation leaves, okay, emergency provisions like death or illness in the family. So these benefits, however, depend on the host country regulations where the business is being hosted. Okay, in brief, if I speak about benefits, it constitutes a substantial portion, approximately one third of the compensation. So benefit is being considered as one third of the compensation, okay, and then it is being bifurcated into different benefits. So transportability of pension plans, okay, then medical coverage and social security coverage are very difficult to deal as national practices vary, as I said. Okay, apart from that, issues surround the amount and nature of the benefit package for the expatriates. Okay, now what are these issues? Okay, one is whether MNC should maintain expatriates in the home country benefits program, particularly if the firm does not receive tax deduction for it. Okay, so here there are certain issues while deciding on the benefits or nature of the benefits which is to be given for the expatriate. First issue is whether multinational companies should maintain expatriates in the home country benefit. Okay, so whatever expatriates are there whom you are sending to the host countries, so whether you should give the benefits according to the home country, whatever is there in home country, whatever are they getting, can you give the same benefits, particularly if the firm does not receive tax deduction for it. Okay, so firm is not receiving any tax deduction for those benefits, so that time can you go ahead with giving the home country benefits only. Apart from that, the next issue is whether multinational companies has option of enrolling expatriates in host country benefits, whether the host country allows that whatever benefits they are giving to their host country nationals, will they give the same benefits to the parent country nationals or third country nationals? Again, that is one of the issue. Apart from that, whether home or host country is responsible for expatriate social security benefits. Okay, who is responsible, whether parent country is responsible, home country is responsible, or the host country is responsible for paying for the social security benefits to the expatriates. Fine, and whether benefits should be subjected to requirements of the home or host country. Now whatever benefits you are giving, can you take into consideration the home country benefits and give it directly, or are you going to see the situations in the host country and then give the benefits? Issues which do come in when deciding upon the benefits. Okay, so that's what we say, benefits is a crucial decision which is to be taken by the HR manager. Okay, then moving on to long term benefits, certain long term benefits are being given for the employees when they are being sent on a long term assignment to the foreign country. Okay, so first is employee stock option plan. Okay, so certain number of shares are reserved for purchase to the employee who is being sent as an expatriate, and issuance to key employees. Okay, so such shares serve as incentives for the employees to build long term value for the company. So they become the part time owners of the organization. Okay, so here when you are owning a share of that particular company, you become the owner of that particular company, part owner of that particular company. So what happens is you are just being put forth into a feeling that when you work, your company grows. When your company grows, you will earn better. Okay, so that's what this is being served as an incentive to the employee. So incentives is basically when you produce more than whatever your target is, you get better incentives. In the same way, when you work better, then obviously your share prices will go high, and ultimately, as you are a shareholder, you'll be getting back the returns of it. Okay, so that's what we say. This particular plan, that is employee stock option plan, is being put forth to build the term value for the company. Okay, then you have restricted stock unit, that is one of the long term benefit which is being given to the expatriate. So here units of stocks are provided with restrictions on when they can be exercised. Okay, there are certain units of stocks which are being provided with restrictions on when they can be exercised. So it is usually issued as partial compensation for the employees. Restrictions generally lift in 3 to 5 years when the stock vests. Okay, Apart from that, you have employee stock purchase plan, ESPP. Apart from the stock option and restricted stock units, you can purchase the shares of the company also. So company will be selling the shares to its employees at a discounted rate. So company deducts the purchase price of these shares every month from the employee's salary. That is one of the option which is being given. So primary objective of this providing stock option is to reward and improve the employee's performance, or to attract and retain critical talent in the organization. So these are the various long-term benefits which are being given to the expatriates. Okay. Then you have incentives, which is one of the component of international compensation. So here, in recent years, some multinational companies have been designing special incentive programs. So based on the country specific requirements, you will be looking into the incentive programs for keeping the expatriates motivated. So in the process of growing number of firms have dropped the ongoing premium, okay, for overseas assignments and replaced it with on time lump sum premium. Okay, so ongoing continuous premium is not being taken into consideration, but on time lump sum premium is being given. Okay, so incentives basically are being planned for, to motivate that particular employee, okay, to perform much better in the organization. Then you have the taxes. Okay, that is one of the component of international compensation. So basically, when we speak about the taxes, my dear students, you have the final, this is a final component of expatriate compensation, which relates to the taxes. Okay, so here this is also very critical to decide in. Okay, so multinational companies generally set one of the following approaches to handle international taxation. Either they go for tax equalization, or they go for tax protection. Okay, now what is this tax equalization? Fine. So here, firm withhold an amount equal to the home country tax obligation of the expatriate and pay all taxes in the host country. Okay. So here, firm, what it does, it withholds an amount equal to the home country tax obligation. So whatever home country tax is there, that much of amount is being withhold of an expatriate, and they pay all the taxes in the host country. Okay. So here, tax equalization here, as I said, they withhold the amount of the home country and tax obligation of the expatriate, whatever is there. That means if that particular expatriate is working in the home country, whatever he has to pay the tax, that much of amount is being withhold from his salary, and then the amount of tax whatever is to be paid in the host country will be paid by the company. So employee pays no more or no less tax when while on assignment. So here, when he is already working in the home country, how much he is going to pay the tax, that much only he is going to pay. So he is not going to pay anything more or anything less when he is working in the host country, or when he is being sent to the other country as an expatriate. Okay, so the company bears all the actual home and host country tax due. Okay, and then most common approach to tax, in case in the home country also, if the tax slabs are being raised, okay, that time also what happens is the company will be paying the additional tax whatever the employee has to pay, as well the host country tax what is due, the company will be paying. So most common approach of tax management which is being used is tax equalization. Okay, this particular tax equalization is being used by 80% of the companies, right? So here in personal income tax. Now, when I say tax here, it relates to personal income tax, which makes wide variations in the salary of the employees among different countries. Okay, so jobs in United Arab Emirates, Oman, okay, Brunei, Jerusalem are more attractive as the tax rate is zero. Okay, so US, anyhow, the situations have changed right now. Okay, but individual tax rates is as high as 64% in Belgium, 61.96 in Finland, and 61.3% in Denmark. So here tax rates are very high in certain countries, and tax rates are almost equal to zero in certain companies. Okay, so basically, taking these differences into consideration, the company decides whether they have to go for tax equalization or no. Okay, so that's what we speak about the tax equalization. So basically, multinational companies consider varying tax rates in different places. Okay, while designing the compensation package for expatriates, in order to maintain the same living standard as well as same ability to save, okay, compared to those of employees' home country or as previous place of employment. Okay. So here, for example, if a multinational company is transferring an employee earning a total salary of US dollar 1 lakh per annum from its operations in United Arab Emirates, that whereas where the tax rate is zero, to its operations in Denmark. Okay, if you are transferring a particular person from uh, Arab Emirates to Denmark, where the tax rate is 59%, so it provides the tax equalization allowance of around US dollar 1,50,000 per annum. Okay, so that the employee would get after tax salary of the whatever deduction is there, after deduction he'll be getting the salary of around US dollar 1 lakh in Denmark. Okay, so here there is no loss or no profit for the employee. So thus multinational companies pay tax equalization allowance to offset the loss of after tax salary. Okay, so after paying the tax of that particular country, whatever loss is there for the employee, that particular loss is being put forth into tax equalization, and the company pays whatever loss is being due for the employee. Okay, so that's what we say tax allowance. So this allowance allows the employees to get more or less the same level of after tax salary in the host country also. So I hope tax equalization is very clear. So you equalize the tax. Okay, then the other tool is tax protection. Okay, so tax protection is nothing but the employee pays up to the amount of taxes he or she should pay, would pay on the remuneration in the home country. In such situation, employee is entitled to any windfall received in if total taxes are less in the foreign country than in the home country. Okay, so here employee pays up to the amount of taxes would pay on remuneration in the home country. So whatever he was supposed to pay in the home country, he is going to pay that much of tax only, but could end up paying less if the host country tax burden is lower than the home country. So if in home country the tax is high, and wherever the employee is being posted in that particular country, if the tax is very low, so that time he ends up paying more. Okay, so for that the company will reimburse the employees for any excess tax whatever he has paid resulting from high tax rates in the host country. Okay, so one is a tax equalization and the other one is tax protection. In tax equalization, if he is paying more tax than the home country, so whatever additional amount he has paid, that will be reimbursed by the company. Okay, then apart from that, in tax protection, if the home country tax is very high, sorry, if home country tax is very low and host country where he is being posted the tax is very high, he ends up paying more tax. Okay, so that time the amount is being reimbursed. So tax protection and tax equalization. Okay, so here basically it is on ad hoc basis. So each expatriate is handled differently. Okay, because of tax rates varying in various countries. Okay, and then laissez-faire is one of the approach wherein employees are on their own in conforming to the host country and home country taxation laws and practices. Okay, that is what we say about the taxes. So these are the various components of salary, various components of international compensation. Okay, now, apart from that, there are two main options. Moving on to approaches of international compensation. Okay, so there are two main options in the area of international compensation on how the approaches are being made. First approach is going rate approach, which is also being referred as market rate approach, and the other one is balance sheet approach. Okay, which is also being referred to as build up approach. Fine, and then additionally we have the local plus approach. Now let us see one by one what it is. So host-based policy, it is going rate approach. So assignees transferred to host country payroll. Assignee transfers to the host country payroll and receives base and incentives pay based on the host country compensation practices and regulations. Okay. So if I am sending a particular person from one country to another country as an expatriate, that expatriate will be receiving the payroll or salary based on the home host country practices. Okay, host country compensation practices. So whatever incentives, whatever base salary is there, entirely it depends on the host country compensation practices and the regulations of that particular country. So adopting the same compensation for all countries within a particular region. Okay, host based approach may be a cost effective option. Okay, or going rate approach is a cost effective option to traditional home based approach. Okay, including local plus policy components. So difficulties can occur in repatriating the assignees. Okay, as well as if applying this approach, because it integrates employees into local host salary structures. Okay, it can make it very difficult to move the assignees to another destination or back to their home country. Another challenge with this approach can be that of defining a particular region. Okay, so here when you speak about going rate approach, it is entirely based on the local market rate. Okay, of the host country. So whatever host country is there, based on the local market rate of the host country, the salary is being fixed for that particular expatriate, and it relies on survey comparison method. Okay, so here host country nationals, okay, expatriates from same nationality, expatriates from all nationality, a survey is being done, and based on that particular survey, the compensation is being fixed. So compensation is based on selected survey comparison. Base pay and benefits may be supplemented by additional payment pay or for low pay countries. Okay, so additional pay is being given for low pay countries. So that is what we speak about the approaches, that is the going rate approach. Okay, so I hope this is very clear. Okay, so basically there are various approaches, okay, to for this. So this is one of the approach which is being put forth into your syllabus, but there are still more approaches. We have only three approaches being considered in your syllabus, so we'll be moving on to only three approaches. Okay, so the one is going rate approach. Okay, and then you have the next approach, that is balance sheet approach. Okay, so here it is home based policy. So going rate approach, entirely it is based on the host country. Okay, so, compensation practices, as well as balance sheet approach is entirely based on the home country compensation practices. Okay, so here when we speak about the balance sheet approach, multinationals companies initially determine the compensation package based on various approaches discussed above, and later they found basically that above approach, that is going rate approach, can meet almost all the requirements of the expatriates. So basically there are various limitations that is being covered by this balance sheet approach. So home country salary structures and financial inducements to home packages, okay, foreign hardship allowance, so all these are included in home based policy. Okay, so goods and services, basically the home country outlays for item foods, personal care, clothing, household furnishings. Okay, then recreation, transportation, medical care, all these are included in the home based policy. Okay, housing, that is the major cost which is associated. And income tax, parent country and host country income taxes are taken into consideration. And reserves, basically contributions to savings, payment for benefits, pension contributions, investments, education expenses, social security taxes, all this is being balanced. Okay, for the employee, that's the reason it is being called as balance sheet approach. So this particular approach preserves equity between international assignees of the same nationality and between the assignments. Okay, so it creates disparities and inequalities between parent country nationals, third country nationals, and host country nationals, because the again no the parent country nationals will be receiving a better pay. Okay, so balance sheet approach, the basic objective is to maintain home country living standards plus financial inducement for the expatriates who are being sent, okay, from the home country to the host country. Then home country pay and benefits are the foundation of this particular approach. Fine, so everything is based on the home country pay and benefits being given. Okay, adjustment to the home package to balance additional expenditure in the host country. So whatever additional expenditure the employee occurs or expatriate occurs in the host country, that is being adjusted by the home packages, that is allowances are being given, as we have discussed earlier. Then financial incentives also are being added to the package, which makes it very attractive. Okay, and most common system of the usage in multinational companies. So this particular approach is commonly used in most of the multinational companies. Then finally we have local plus approach. Okay, local plus approach basically is paid according to the prevailing salary levels of host location plus expatriate type. Okay, that is benefits such as assistance with transportation, housing, and dependents education. So benefits may be paid in kind directly by the multinational enterprises. Okay, so here what happens is whatever prevailing salary levels of the host country, that is taken into consideration, as well as expatriate type of benefits. Okay, so additional benefits are being given to the expatriates, okay, which is paid in kind. So benefits will be paid by the multinational enterprises. Does not typically include tax equalization. So local plus approach doesn't include tax equalization or COLA or cost of living allowances or mobility premiums or hardship allowances or familiarization visits. Okay, then home leaves, then cross cultural training on other pre-departure programs or spouse assistance. Everything is not typically included in this particular local plus approach, but pension benefits are optional, okay, depending on the nature of the assignment. So localization involves integrating the assignees into regional or host country compensation levels and systems to the extent that the law allows. Okay, so local plus approach basically doesn't include various benefits, but yes, pension benefits may be optionally put for, as well as localization, okay, is being taken into consideration. Okay, wherein the host country compensation levels are being made very familiar to the employee, and the systems of law or allowances, whatever are being there, okay, what law allows, everything is being made familiarized to the employee. So this is local plus approach. Okay, now taxation. Multinational companies generally select one of the approach to handle international taxation. Either they go for tax equalization or tax reduction. Okay, tax equalization, as I've already explained, it withholds the amount equal to the home country tax obligations of the parent country nationals and pay all taxes in the host country. Okay, tax protection, obviously, employee pays up to the amount of taxes he or she would pay on compensation in the home country. So in such a situation, employee is entitled to a windfall received if total taxes are less in the foreign country than in the home country. Okay. Then USA, my dear students, moving on to compensation practices across the countries. In USA, the compensation package includes base salary, bonus, long-term incentives, and other benefits and perks. Okay. So here, when we speak about compensation package of American executives, okay, it includes the base salary, bonus, long-term incentives, other benefits and perks. So base salary is a small part of total package. Okay? So for example, if I take a particular a particular example here, Lee Lakoka, chairman and CEO of Chrysler Corporation, earned 20% of the total compensation as base salary, and stock options and other benefits account to nearly 80%. So base salary and the stock option is very low, that is 20%, and other benefits or allowances are very high. Okay. So American executives earn significant portion of their salaries in the form of performance-based pay. So too much of emphasis is there on performance-based pay. Based on the performance, the incentives, the rewards are being given. That is 80% of the total compensation. So however, there are arguments that most of the American executives have not been paid their salary based on their performance, but American companies have been approaching the system of linking the performance to the pay. Okay, so here basically the significant portion of the compensation package, it includes it is based on the employee performance. Okay, so for example, again one example, Toys R Us, okay, so pays 1% of its corporate pre-tax profits as incentive salary to its chairman, and performance-based salary motivates the executives to design strategies towards maximizing the employee performance. So too much of emphasis is there on performance when it comes to America. So okay, so American executives compensation package entirely depends on the size of the company, annual revenue of the company, duties and job levels of the executives, as well as the city where the company operates in the country. So women executives basically in America have been growing in number, in large number. So they are managing the organizations more successfully than before, and as successfully as men executives. The ratio of men's salary and women's salary have been shifting from 1.51 to 1.6. So if you could see here, women's salary is very high. Okay. So 1.067, and the men salary is 1.1 is to 0.51. Okay, so women executives are more in the American companies rather than the men. Okay, they are earning better position. Okay, as well as better pay. Now moving on to compensation approach in Europe. uh, Generally, European executives are paid less, okay, compensation than that of the American executives. Okay. However, compensation disparity between American executives and European executives will be narrowed down with the increased phase of globalization. So when we speak about Europe, they are being paid less. European employees are being paid less, and but benefits and the employee perks are much better in Europe than America. Okay, that is one of the issue here. Okay, so here what happens is, large companies, the American chief executives get compensation package twice that of a European executive. Okay, so European executives get less compensation, mostly due to less amount of performance based pay, incentives, stock options, and other long term incentives. Okay, so in addition, American executives get more salary due to low tax rate in USA. Marginal tax rate in USA is 28%. Compared to that of European countries. Okay, so here marginal tax rate is 54% in Sweden, 46% in Netherlands, and 35% in Germany, and 34% in UK. So here, if you could see, USA, the tax rate is very low, so they get the better pay. The Americans get the better pay. So European companies, what they do is they include tax-free fringe benefits and perks like company cars, okay, then club memberships, housing facilities, then augmented pension, educational allowances, and the likes, due to high rate of taxes. Okay, so however, European companies have also been changing their compensation package of late by including stock option plans, performance pay bonus, as well as long term bonuses. Okay, so if you could see the difference between USA and Europe, USA basically they have less base pay and more performance based pay. Okay, in Europe they have high tax rate. Okay, so that's the reason most of their salary is absorbed by the taxes, so they pay the tax free fringe benefits, okay, which is not there in America. Apart from that, if you could speak about the compensation approach in Japan. Okay, so here the compensation levels of CEOs of large companies are just one third of those of Americans. Okay, so CEOs, American CEOs. So Japanese compensation is based on seniority of the employees. So Japanese compensation entirely is based on the seniority of the company employees. So social and cultural environment basically in Japan is quite different from that of industrialized countries of North America and Europe. So compensation level of CEOs of large companies in Japan are just one third of those of American CEOs. Okay, so these Japanese respect the seniority of the employees more. So Japanese compensation is entirely based on the seniority of the employees. So if you could see here, my dear students, Americans it is based on the performance. Europe it is again based on performance as well as taxes. Japan it is entirely based on the seniority of the employees. Okay, so your compensation level is based on seniority of the employees in the company. This is to maintain the stability of the employment. Okay, they focus more on stability of the employment. 50-year-old employee in Japan receives a salary three times more than the fresh graduate, that is 25 years old fresh graduate. So Japanese employment approach and practices are distinct from those of other countries. So Japan employment is long-term employment. So Japanese company provide incentives in order to retain employees and provide stability in employment. So in addition, Japanese companies provide group incentives, team incentives. As Japanese company, they strive more on teamwork. Okay. So in additional, they provide lifetime income programs, retirement benefits, pension plans that focuses more on these plans. Okay. Small portion of compensation package includes performance based pay. So too much of emphasis is not there on performance based pay. Okay. Then benefits provided by Japanese companies include life insurance, accidental insurance, and medical insurance. Okay, so if you could see here, there is a lot of difference between the compensation between USA, Europe, and Japan. Now, if I speak about compensation approach in Russia, okay, so here. If I speak about the compensation package in Russia, so Russia is being transferring from communistic pattern of economic system to capitalistic pattern of system. Okay, so here if you could see, compensation package in Russia includes a basic salary, then incentives, and a variety of non-monetary benefits. Okay, they have non too much of non-monetary benefits. They recommend for inclusion of individual bonuses, small group incentives, long-term and short-term incentives in the compensation package. Also, they recommend tailoring the compensation package to individual preferences. Based on the individuals, they just go in for setting the compensation. Okay, so like this, there are n number of differences between the countries. Okay, so here, if I could say, speak about a Chinese manager with 15 years of experience, cost less than US dollar 70,000 per annum. Okay, Chinese manager with 15 years experience, cost less than US dollar 70,000 per annum. US expatriate manager with corresponding expertise would cost his or organization US dollar 3 lakhs per year. See the difference, my dear students. Okay, 3 lakhs per year, 70,000 per annum, and 3 lakhs per year. Okay, so average wage of Chinese workers is only about 3 to 5% of that of US workers. So vacation time is not important in benefit to Japanese workers, because they are people who are very hardworking, and they just want to work 24/7. So they take off 4 days off in a year. Okay, so they just take leave 3 to 4 days in a year. Okay, in a year, 3 to 4 days. However, vacation and holidays are very much important in Africa, America, and Asian countries. Okay, so once in a year they have to take the leaves and all those things, right? Holidays and all those things. In European countries, efforts are progressing to establish Europe, which by which members nations would develop common policies regarding compensation practices. Okay, so the emerging issues in compensation practices we'll be looking into next class. My dear students, till here, is it understood? Any doubts till here? Sandra, any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I hope things are very much understood. So we'll just see few examples in the next class, and then we'll end with the module 6, and then we'll start basically with the case studies which are being put forth in the question papers of various years. So we'll just move ahead with the case studies, and then we'll look into the revision of all the modules one by one. Okay. So is it clear, students? Any doubts? Any suggestions from your end?